Dan, how we doing?
What is going on? I'm just taking off this long sleeve shirt because it's a million degrees in this freaking upstairs room here.
So we're not actually Facebook Live, are we?
Not yet.
Not yet. We will be.
We will be.
Oh, we're going all in.
There we go.
There he is. How's it going,
How's it
dude?
going?
You see Matt's. You see the office space we built behind Matt. We built a sound room.
A cubicle.
Yeah.
It doesn't
That's where
work.
our CSR takes calls in there, so it's not as loud, you know.
I fully understand that because we thought about doing the same thing in our Cincinnati office because like all the females, like the maid service cleaners and our window cleaners, like pile all into the same door, which is where our office manager is sitting, and it's fucking chaos next to her. But
Oh yeah. We
You
feel
got
that.
You got the green screen going on, don't you?
hell yeah, this is a brand new background. First show tonight, and I actually have an intro video. It's the first rendition of it, so I'm gonna edit it down yet, or gonna have my social media guy edit it down. But when we go live, I'm gonna hit the button. I'm gonna share my screen and hit the button, and we're gonna show that intro video, and then and so we'll be like on the screen off to the side, but that we'll all be watching that intro video. I'm gonna start every episode with that.
Awesome.
And then we'll be live after that. So tonight's like the unveiling of that, the first effort of it. And then feedback.
How many listeners are we expecting?
It's been like going downhill actually, just like I think social media burnout. So
Yeah.
we'll probably get somewhere around like 500 views is what I'm.
Pretty good.
So
Well, with
Can we
Matt,
share that?
we should
Do you have
get
a
big
link we
help.
can share?
so when it goes, if you're in bookkeeping beer and BS like on Facebook, you can share it from there. And
I'm
then
in there, yeah.
yeah. So once we go live, share it to whatever the hell groups you're in and let it rip.
Sounds good. Also, we'll send it to all our staff and tell them to get watching, get a learning.
Hell yeah. Let's see here. I gotta write a title so that once I hit the live button, I can put that in. Give me one sec here.
Charger's not working. There we go.
Title done. Live button going. I just gotta do some copying and pasting and stuff.
How's your guys' businesses doing this year so far?
Really good, actually. I'm really like all around pretty good. Home cleaning is still kind of on the bounce back a little bit, but it's bouncing back really fast. So
I bet house washing's killing it right now. Well, it feels like just like the amount of work you can get. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
yep,
There's so much demand.
yeah, it's just like everywhere, and we've been raising prices, but nobody seems to care. Like one person out of 100 cares, but it doesn't. It's just not relevant.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Or natural light coming in for a hot second. All right, I'm hitting the live button. Wait a second, I gotta get my phone out. Starts at 8 o'clock, not sharp. I was trying to be like kind of useful to help my wife, but I wasn't really. So she's still dealing with the kids.
Nice. Looking for the group bookkeeping. There we go. Are you still doing any coaching through Conquer?
I still have Frank as like a one-on-one coach.
Okay.
So I'll probably stick with it for a little bit. But I'm having a bunch of people try to join my group that are accountants, and I don't really know if I want them in my group.
Like bookkeeping or Frank, like Conquer or
well, no, like I just had a bunch of. I was gonna like go live, and then before I did, I was like, well, let me check. I got like 11 new member requests, but they're mostly all bookkeepers. And I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to add more bookkeepers to my group. I'm trying to add more business owners. Like, I don't want more bookkeepers in here. I want to be. All right, I'm hitting the live button. We'll do this.
All right.
Any preamble Matt and I should be prepared for, or we're just gonna send it?
We're in. We're live. We're just going.
We're live.
We're doing it. All right. But since it is the opening rendition or whatever you'd call it of the intro video, everybody else buckle up. First of all, happy Wednesday night. Second of all, welcome to the new intro. Actually, let me get I don't know if this will work good or not. I got to get my microphone going. I don't know how the audio is going to be. So you guys let me know audio is.
Oh, we're screwed up.
All right, we'll do.
Did it get funny there?
Oh, it's back. You're back.
I'm back. You can hear me like a real human being?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop the share for a sec and make sure it's the right microphone. Oh, yeah. That's the right microphone. Sound okay? Good enough?
Sounds good on our end.
All right. I'm doing it. We're doing the intro video. First time ever. Buckle up, boys and girls.
Sounds good.
Dan, why are you sleeping? There are people that don't know their numbers. They didn't even split up their interest in their principal and loans. I'm not even set up as an S corp.
I can't hear any sound.
You can't hear the sound?
No. I didn't know if I should have said it or not.
Well, I don't want to interrupt either.
Well, then we're going to stop the share. We're stopping it.
I really like the way
At least you got the visual. I don't know how to get the sound to work. I'll have to do some dabbling. We'll have to figure out how to get the sound. Well, anyway, it ends with me opening a beer and saying, let's do this. So let's do this.
Cheers.
That's why it's a live show, because then you can screw stuff up like that and just be like, yeah, it's a live show. What are you gonna do? Anyway, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Bookkeeping Beer and Beats, everybody. I got David Endacott, Matt Atkinson, owners of Atkinson Landscaping, some Canadian buddies of mine. And what's the saying on radio stations? Like frequent listener, first time caller. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing too, but I always hear that on like sports radio. Like, yeah, listen all the time. First time calling in. So Matt and Dave, I know, like, check out the show every once in a while, but this is their first time on the show. So welcome to the show, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. I don't know what we're gonna get into tonight, but frankly, I kind of like not knowing. I like taking it wherever the audience questions go, wherever you guys want to take it. We could end up talking for hours, and sometimes we do. We'll see what happens. A couple things to quickly announce before we start getting into intros and stories and lessons and all that stuff. One is, for anybody out there that's in the exterior cleaning space, huge convention's coming up in less than 3 months in Atlanta, and it's going to be live again this year, which we missed last year. So if you haven't signed up for the huge convention and you do any exterior cleaning at all, whether it's pressure washing, window cleaning, paver sealing, what have you, make sure you check out the huge convention. Go sign up for it. I have like a special intro rate. So if you go to sign up and there's not a special intro rate, shoot me a note and I'll figure out how to get you that. Secondly, a small group of us are doing a specific pressure washing. We haven't named it yet. But Bobby Walker, Jason Guyman, and I are doing like a pressure washing business in a box style 2-day session where we're teaching technical stuff, marketing and business stuff, and I'll be teaching financial nerdery stuff to help get guys starting pressure washing businesses right out the gate. And I think at some point we'll probably do it for the green industry. At some point, we'll probably do it for window cleaning to help people entering the industry get through those like painful first few hires and start scaling up. So we're starting with pressure washing with those couple guys, but I think it has a lot of legs in the future. So anyway, we're doing that shortly after July 4th in Cincinnati. So if you're interested in that, hit me up, and there will be more to come on that. Other than that, Matt, Dave, how you guys doing?
I'm awesome. That was an awesome intro. It's actually funny. I'm helping a buddy of mine start a pressure washing business right now. He's actually in his like second month of operation, so I'll probably get him to sign up for that.
Nice.
Like he watches a lot of Bobby Walker, so he's always talking about him.
Well, there you go. I was gonna say it's Bobby and Jason doing the majority of the pressure washing stuff, because everybody knows I don't know shit about pressure washing. I just have a couple companies that do it. But it'll be fun to kind of like bring the trifecta of the technical stuff, the business stuff, the back end administrative stuff, and get people squared away. So send them. Although we probably will do one on the West Coast at some point. We're gonna do like 3 or 4 a year and kind of do a tour around the country and do them live, so people can, you know, not have to try to fly across the whole country to get to us. So we'll see. First one's in Cincinnati though. Let's do, before we get too far into it, and this is like some feedback that I get from my wife constantly, is I'm always just so excited to see people that I totally forget to introduce them to anybody else. So that said, I'm going to introduce you guys. Mostly I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, but just for the audience. So I've talked about Conquer in the past. I'll talk about it in the future, but I'm in a coaching program called Conquer. And for a nice period of time, I was in a group with both Matt and Dave, you know, spending an hour a week talking shop, going over business stuff, helping each other grow our businesses, and having a lot of fun doing it. So that's how I know these guys. And we talk about finance stuff. We talk about operation stuff. We talk about marketing stuff. So that's how I got to know Matt and Dave. I will never be able to do an introduction of you guys as good as you'll be able to do. So why don't you guys give a little bit of your personal history, just like a short synopsis, and a little bit of business history. And I'll make it easy. Matt, let's start with you.
Awesome. So a little bit about me and the business. We started the business about 6 years ago. It was me and Dave, and we just started mowing a couple lawns, and then like it started progressing into something a little bit more. We started right out of high school, and from there on, we hired a couple employees. Things got a little crazy for a while, and then like we're operating now there's 24 of us, including about 5 to 6 of us in the office, and it's like we get to run a really cool business. We get to employ a lot of cool people. And I love what I do. So
beauty. Dave, what do you got?
Right, I'm up. Not a lot to add to what Matt said. I would say like our growth of business was never that strategic. Like we just kind of were like, let's cut some lawns, and then it morphed, and now it's more strategic, and we're a growing business, so it's a lot of fun to be part of. But nothing much to add to what Matt said. I'm Dave, and I'm Matt's business partner. And we have a landscaping company.
So you said you guys just kind of like started mowing lawns together. Did you guys grow up together, like go to school together, all that stuff? Or how did, the story about how business partners come together, I think is always just such a weird, has a lot of twists and turns. How do you guys know each other? What's the background that brought you together?
We're next door neighbors. Well, we were. Our parents are next door neighbors. And then I'm a few years older than Matt, 4 years. And so I guess essentially since Matt was born, I've known him. And then so that's the story.
That's easy enough. That's the easy route. I like it. How now in your neighborhood growing up, which one of you guys like mowed the most lawns? Because just like or was it that you just decided one day like, hey, let's mow some lawns? Or were you like the kids trying to own the block and mow all the neighbors' yards?
No, we weren't trying to own the block, but there was one lady we cut the lawn for, and I think I cut it when I was in high school and then passed on to Matt, and he mowed it. But it was more we were both working separately at landscaping companies and had like I think we both had a couple properties we mowed on the side on our own, and then we just partnered up and went for it.
Nice,
But
nice.
it wasn't a big competition.
No,
Yeah.
go ahead, Matt.
I just remember it was like when I was younger and Dave was a little bit older, we mowed a couple lawns out of his like parents' Ford Escape. It was like funny. And then kind of like when we joined forces, we did both have a couple lawns that we were mowing on the side, and then we kind of converged them. Our first name was Atkinson Mowing and Yard Works, and then that morphed into Atkinson Landscaping because it seemed a little bit more professional.
I like it. I'm a closet green industry dude because like I run window cleaning, pressure washing, and obviously administrative companies today. When I was in high school and college, my niche was lawn mowing. Like I was the guy on the block pushing my parents' mower. Like there's a big hill on our street. Now when I look at it, I'm like, what the hell was I doing? Like I was going up to the top of the hill, mowing the lawns at the top of the hill. Had a couple properties around town that I maintained. So I don't know how the hell I ended up window cleaning and pressure washing because I was the guy. And now there's a kid on our block that has a bike and a trailer that he pulls behind his bike with a mower, and he's our guy. And now he's got a weed whip this year. Last year, I don't think he had the weed whip, but
Yeah,
he added
awesome.
a weed whip to his repertoire.
That's awesome to see. That's awesome.
Okay, I need a bottle opener. I'll be right back. My doesn't twist off.
You can't do the teeth thing. You know, don't you landscaping guys? Aren't you like tough enough to do that teeth thing where you bite it and just don't do it? Actually, that always weirds me out.
I have done it. I just not tonight.
All right, I don't blame you. I had buddies in college that would do that, and every time I just like, oh, we're going to the dentist real soon.
Yeah, I used to do the teeth thing, and then I got told like 20 times about stories of people just crack their teeth open. So
I mean, I just don't even see how it's not possible to crack your teeth. Like that metal is gonna win over time. It's got to win.
yeah, true. Over time, definitely.
All right, what do we got here? I got people chiming in. Sid Graff says he's the first one. Congrats, Sid. Way to go. Justin said, looks like you asleep. I was probably looking down at my phone, like checking on my stuff and sharing stuff. But Justin's in for the huge convention. Thanks, Justin. My guy Ben Smith says what's up, and then he's going to bed. Anybody else as we get going here? Like I said, we've got some topics to get into, but if you guys have questions that you want us to answer or discuss or whatever, drop your questions in the comments as we get going. I'll keep an eye on it and monitor it as we go. Because distractions are fun. I'm just that ADD. I kind of enjoy a good distraction. My wife hates that about me, but it's part of the fun of life. So as you start with a few lawns. Now what are you guys expecting to do revenue wise this year? I think last time I talked to you it was like pushing a couple mil.
Yeah. So this year we're hoping to do 2 million. We did 1.3 million last year, so we're planning on growing. I think it's about like 65%, and hitting that number. So, yeah.
Nice. That's aggressive, which I like. How you don't just trip into, from 3-4 lawn mowing gigs to 2 million. So, what has been like from a catalyst perspective? What has been the biggest or the few biggest moves that you guys have made where it's like that was the thing that took us to the next level, and then this thing took us to that next level? Was it adding services? Was it like honing in on a certain thing? What do you guys attribute to what got you to where you are today?
That's a good question. I mean, it's like different things. We've had different people that we've hired that have been really helpful. I know like a big step that I think back on is like we didn't have a CRM for a long time. I think we got a CRM in like 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. So that was a big step. We were also operating out of like my dad's driveway, and then got our own yard we operate out of. So like things like that were big. I don't know, like I'm trying to think of specific catalysts, but those ones come to mind. I know, Matt, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think like for like myself, the way I see the biggest catalyst was like, number one, like being able to take a step back and like create systems so that people can like operate the business. And then last year we hired on a estimator and office manager, and those two positions gave us the time to kind of create all those systems we needed to create. Like at the time we threw people into those positions and it was like a sink or swim, and luckily they swam, and then they allowed us to kind of step back and take a more strategic look at like, okay, what's going on? What do we need? Like, how are we going to recruit, hire, market, like do all these things? And now that's allowed us to really like work on the strategy end, which in turn has helped us become way better in every way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like I think it was like 2018, 2019. I feel like we were just 24/7 work and just, I don't know, working ourselves into a hole kind of idea and getting burnt out. And then I feel like, yeah, 2020 we kind of made that shift with having office manager, estimator, and being able to, yeah, more like manage the business than just be doing all aspects of it. So just to reiterate what Matt said.
What when you guys made that shift, so like CRM you said was kind of like 2018, 2019. What CRM are you guys on, by the way?
We started with Jobber and then we transitioned to Service Autopilot.
Okay. We have a few of our businesses on Service Autopilot, so I'm pretty familiar. What was the catalyst for that change? What made you switch to Service Auto?
Well, I'll speak nicely about everybody because we're live. But like Jobber, I think is like an amazing program, super awesome, user friendly, very easy to learn. But once you kind of got up around the million mark, like just like the automations and just its like capability wasn't there. Whereas Service Autopilot, I feel like there's no real limit to what it can do. So we are able to really introduce a lot of new automations, reporting, different things to push our business forward. But from a user-friendly standpoint and sometimes a customer service standpoint, I've been more frustrated with Service Autopilot. Just it's not as, and I think part of it is it's like more powerful, which makes it more complex, so it's harder to learn. Whereas Jobber's a bit simpler, so it's easier to learn. But yeah, the shift was just pretty much we felt like Jobber couldn't meet our needs as we grew.
Yep, I got you. So as you started growing, now you started with, just the lawn mowing stuff. At what point did you start adding landscaping, hardscaping? And I want to kind of transition our conversation to that like trifecta of services and how you think about them. But let's kind of start at the beginning. At what point were you like, we can't just make a living mowing lawns, we got to start adding more project-based stuff or more technical stuff? How'd you get into multiple services?
Yeah, I'll field this one. I mean, I think for me, like I think I was so unstrategic at the start that if like anybody asked us to do anything, like it was just a yes, if that makes sense, because I just thought like, oh, that's business, we'll just do everything. So we even had like a few, like we bought a pressure washer, and like that was one of our early purchases, and we never pressure washed. Like the thing, I think Matt did some pressure washing at his house, and I did some pressure washing at my house. Like that's the extent that it's been used.
We did one pressure washing job. We did one. If you go dig on our Instagram, you'll find it.
Yeah, if you go dig. And so it was just kind of like we started with lawn mowing, but then it was just like, well, what everyone asked us for, almost like handyman style, we'd start doing. And I think there's a sod install we got. That was a backyard. If I remember correctly, it was a $2,300 job, and it was like 1,800 square feet. And when I think about that now, that's like a $6,000 job, but at the time it was cheaper. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We just got this sod install. We did it. It went well. And then like I remember we did a patio for a buddy, and then just kind of morphed. And I think like I've always liked the install end and that kind of thing. So we just started doing more and more projects. And then I think it was like the end of 2016, we got like a really big backyard reno that we did. And then that kind of got us to that next level. And so we always kept the maintenance, but then started doing the landscaping, hardscaping as well. Anything? Nice. I think that covers it. Matt, anything you'd add?
Yeah, I think like as we've grown, there's been like you kind of like hit on the trifecta. Like we have like our maintenance end, we have our installation end, and then we also do snow and ice management in the winter, and that's kind of like the trifecta of our business. And also as we've grown, like I more have overseen the maintenance end, Dave oversees like the install end, and then we work together on the snow and ice. Kind of like as we grew, we both realized Dave was a lot more like technically skilled than I was. So he kind of took on those big projects while I like oversaw the maintenance end and like the strategy with that. So
Yep. How do you guys emphasize the different services today? Do you is like between and let me know if I have this wrong, but I view it as you've got like your lawn care or fertilizing or like recurring type of stuff. You've got landscaping stuff, which would be more sod or plants or stuff like that, and you have hardscaping stuff that'd be more like stone. And that's like my very amateur explanation of it. Is that directionally correct?
Yeah. And I think me and you were talking about this, but like originally, like what Matt hit on the trifecta is like snow removal, reoccurring maintenance, and then like the install end. I would say just as more, well, maybe not as recently, but in the install, there's kind of like the planting end of it with like sod, bushes, stuff like that. And then there's like the hardscaping end, which is like paving stones, alum block. And I'd say as of more recently, we've kind of made more of a distinction between the two because they are like very similar, very lots of overlap, but like different tools, different skill sets, different knowledge bases kind of idea. Like you get hardscaping guys that don't know how to plant trees and stuff like that. And then the softscaping guys know how to plant and maintain trees and that kind of thing. So I would say like the three big ones, like Matt said, are the like snow removal, the installation and the maintenance, but then the installation kind of breaks down to softscaping, hardscaping, and the maintenance kind of breaks down to residential and then commercial and what we call strata, which I think it's HOAs where you guys are, like townhouse complexes. So even that breaks down further, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know if that sums it up.
Well, so what I'm curious about, I'm kind of, I don't want to like downplay the snow removal, but I guess the way I was thinking about it is like maybe I've got this part wrong. So I'm gonna like make an assumption, then you guys can tell me how wrong I am. But I was kind of viewing it as that snow removal piece of it, you're gonna end up selling mostly to the people that are clients of yours from all the other things that you're already doing. And maybe that's not the case. Maybe it can go the other direction too. But that service isn't competing with your other three, or it's not as, like, because it's all happening in a different time of year than the other projects is. It's like it bridges the gap of seasonality, but it's not like if you're going to hardscape for somebody, then you have to do the snow removal stuff for them. And if you mow somebody's lawn, you don't, what I mean? So it seems like maybe there would be, there's like some cross-selling and some complementary type of thing between the summer maintenance stuff, the landscaping, the hardscaping, and the what would you call it, landscaping. How is there one of those things that is like here's what we're going to lead with, here's what we're going to market, here's what we're going to sell, and everything else, like the dominoes fall after that? Is there like a go-to thing and that helps sell everything else, or do you kind of market everything? How do you get your foot in the door?
I almost want Matt and I say our answers on 3 to see if we have the same answer.
Okay, I'm gonna do the countdown.
Good, wait.
I'm gonna say
no. I think I know the answer to this one.
No, you don't. You don't. Neither of you know the answer.
No. We can say it together because I think we'll say the same thing. I'm pretty sure. 90%.
Can you clarify the question so it's very clear? Like restate it, then on 3 we'll say what our answer.
All right. And when we say, I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, and then like then as if you're saying the number 4, that's when you say the thing. Right. So
I have like follow-ups. I have follow-up stuff to say with mine, so like I can wait after. But
you say the word.
It's like you have to digest it a little bit.
Yeah. So you'll say the thing, and then we'll get the breakdown after that. We'll start with you, Matt, and then Dave can give his breakdown after that. All right. So the question is like, what's your leading sales offer? And I'm gonna break it down this way. We're gonna include 4. So you're gonna have like your summer maintenance stuff, your lawn care stuff, and I know like there's gonna be some like it depends on the time of year, obviously, but let's say maintenance related stuff, the lawn care, the seed, the fertilizer, whatever. the landscaping type of stuff like planting, mulch, and this sort of thing, that sort of thing, and hardscaping projects. And I guess like the snow removal, that's just kind of like blended in with the maintenance stuff. Like summer and winter maintenance kind of goes together, if that's fair. So between those three things, so we'll call it maintenance, landscaping, and hardscaping. Is that fair?
Yeah. Now
you're
the
just gonna
pressure's
say,
on.
like,
Now the pressure's on.
and you're just gonna say which one you think is like the lead. Like, here's our fastball. Everything else comes at, you know, like, as this offshoot of the fastball.
Okay.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Maintenance.
All right.
Yeah, maintenance. There we go.
I feel like you guys didn't quite say it at the same time. I feel like Dave said it first, and then Matt copied him.
Yeah,
No. We both said it. You just didn't hear me. Like I said it, and I couldn't hear myself talk, and then I said it again because he said it again.
Yeah,
Pressure is on. You know.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah.
So Matt, give your rationale first. And you guys' rationale will probably be the same since you freaking like grew up together and you run a business together. But give us your rationale for why you start with the maintenance and then cross sell everything else.
Okay, so when you first asked the question, you said like anything, and I think like our marketing is kind of like a spread for everything. Like we don't lead with maintenance, but when you like break it down to those three, it is maintenance. The reason when you ask everything is we have on the maintenance end, we have our like residential maintenance, which will be our cleanups and our like lawn care for like residential clients. And we have like our strata and commercial, which in like the United States is HOA and commercial kind of thing. And those are like two different sides. And to be honest, like me and Dave have been like on this like 2 to 3 years soul search on like where we want to specialize. And we've been back and forth from the residential to the strata, back to residential, back to strata. And that's why when you asked that, I was like, I don't even know. Like right now, I don't know where we're at on that. Cause like this year we're like, we're gonna do residential. And then like halfway through this year, I'm like, no. I think we need like
and then a whole bunch of stratas send you emails that are like, hey, we need a bid for this and we need a bid for that. And like, damn, these stratas are nice.
Yeah, it's that. And like just when you're dealing with so many people, like we like you kind of see like at like $1 million, you're like, oh, this works. We have an office manager. It's great. Like she can deal with everything. And now like we get so many phone calls a day and we have to like hire like we have like a CSR customer service representative. She sits in that booth all day because she literally talks on the phone all day. So it like creates these problems that you didn't even know were problems before. So yeah, now it's like this like soul search between the commercial strata and the residential end, which is like the big question for our business.
Do you have to choose, or is it like, can the same
Bill-
crews and the same equipment serve both? It's just like your sales and service approach to each is a little different.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like your sales and service approach are different. Once again, like this year like last year we had them separate. This year we amalgamated them to try and like create a system that ran on both of them, and we like thought it was going to work. Route density is way better, but it also created some problems that we didn't foresee. Just with like the way our strata contracts works, we do everything on the property. We plan out like 44 visits, like whatever budget hours for every visit. It just like creates some challenges that we like didn't foresee coming. Just with staff and managing that and expectations. But we're trying to figure it out. It's been like a good problem, but like I think like what we're gonna do is we're gonna reseparate them. We're gonna hire an account manager that like oversees the sites and then sells to the property managers and tries like to like create better relationships and stuff. So
okay. Dave, what's your rationale for leading with the maintenance side?
Well, I think it's where we like originated from, which plays into it. I think reoccurring work is always helpful. So if we, have a slow season or whatever, having that, guaranteed work is really good. I think to some level, it's a more simple service and there's some ability to scale that more where we run into some complexities on the install end. I also think like just a lot of room to cross sell from that. So we have a pretty big client base we market to every month. Then we can sell them on the install. We can sell them on the snow removal, that kind of thing. Just to chime back to snow removal, we only do it for our commercial and townhouse or strata complexes. We don't do it for residents, but there's just, we get our foot in the door with them. It's a reoccurring maintenance, guaranteed work, and then ability to cross sell our other services. So it's kind of like our bread and butter, and the other stuff's the gravy. So
do you have data on like client acquisition cost for maintenance versus for hardscaping, landscaping stuff, or does it all kind of get blended together as far as like how much you spend on marketing to get a client?
Yeah, I can actually talk on this because I've been doing some work on this year. Our like I would like to. I'll start by saying I'd like to know all these things better. But we have some
Naturally.
idea. But when we run Facebook ads for installation right now, our cost per lead is very cheap, and our close ratio seems to be quite strong. When we do, I want to say like we'd get ads like as low, like under $10 a lead kind of idea.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then for maintenance, we were kind of in the 20 to 30 range. But what I noticed was we weren't getting, it didn't seem like we were having a lot of conversions. We get a lot of leads, but the amount of new clients we'd sign on wasn't a lot. So what we did is we made a new form because my suspicion was that people were calling us because they wanted like their lawn mowed once, but our whole thing is trying to get people on reoccurring mowing.
Yep.
We just set up a really basic form, and on it you have 3 selections. You have like weekly, bi-weekly, and one-time cut. But under each one, like under weekly, it says like starting at $40 a cut. Under bi-weekly, it says starting at $60 a cut, and then one time it says like starting at $397 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still too early to really talk on it, but like our lead cost has gone up, our cost per result, and I think for one point there's like $70 or something. But I think the leads that we're getting in are a lot stronger. Now it's all kind of like speculative at this point, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'd say. And actually, like right now, our like installation hardscaping is booked out about 3 months, and our like softscaping install kind of like 6 weeks. And then we're not even advertising for that. Like we're not doing any paid advertising, which is just like all organic. So all our ad spend's going into reoccurring maintenance right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like by no means have we mastered that, and I don't really know what the solution is. And Matt kind of touched on it, but we want to get an account manager to manage our commercial and strata clients, then do more like door knocking essentially with like property management companies, because we think that'll be kind of the best way to acquire those clients versus doing like Facebook ads. We are running Google ads this year, and it's the first year we've really done it and like committed to it, and they're actually beating our Facebook ads right now, which I'm surprised about. But that's another way we're doing it. But I like to like I have no analytical data on why this is, but I feel like if I'm under $30 a lead, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, and what is the total client acquisition cost that you shoot for in terms of if you added all your ad spend, all the marketing infrastructure costs for like website stuff, if you're paying people to run the ads, like do you know how much, do you have a number that's like if I spend more than $250 a client or $200 a client or like some barometer for that?
I'm hoping you can tell me what it should be.
I can tell you what I think it should be.
We've said like we want to be $100 acquisition cost per client, but like I don't have a good analytic for that.
How so in lawn care, how much revenue do you make off an average client per month? Is it around like $150 a month for a mowing client?
What did you say, man? A good client, $50 a week times 4 weeks a month.
Yeah, I think we were around like $2,000 a season for like our average mowing client. So you could say like $200 a month.
Okay. And what's the attrition rate? Like how many times do people sign up and not stick with you?
Our like attrition rate's pretty low. Like I feel like we probably lose, I have no good data on it, but we might lose like 5 to 10% a year, like year over year kind of thing. And we might lose like, we're probably around 10%, but that's like an absolute gut feeling on that. We're pretty good at keeping our clients and keeping them happy.
Yeah.
You didn't tell us the questions were going to be so hard.
So, well, I was just trying to maid service is similar, and granted we can do maid service all year, but on average, like an average client spends $200 to $230 a month with us. Some that's like they're bi-weekly and it's $150 every 2 weeks, and some they're monthly and it's $115 a month for a really small place. So like we look at it on like we're gonna have clients that go every week, every 2 weeks, every month in that type of recurrence. And so we're looking at it in terms of what's the average monthly revenue from a client. Like we can't control if weekly's best for them or if bi-weekly's best for them or monthly's best for them. We're going to price it how we need to price it to make it worth our time to go there for those number of visits. but we look at what's the average revenue per client per month, and we're around that low 200s. So we're bringing in, you know, somewhere just south of $3,000 a year. And our acquisition cost target, where I know if we book a client for less marketing spend than X, we make money almost no matter what, even after attrition and all that stuff. We shoot for $250 or less. And so my thought is you guys are probably in a similar boat. Yours might be like $200 or less. Not saying that like that's your target acquisition cost. Like, of course you're going to spend money on the ads that convert better and cost you $100 for a client. But when I look at our marketing, I always say like, keep spending money, and I will outspend our budget even if I can go get that next client for under $250. Once that next client starts costing me $250, now I know like the lifetime value of them is probably higher, but like for me to make money in the short term, like I start to cut my legs out from underneath me. Now there's like the referral value of them. There's the value of like being able to sell them other stuff. There's the value that they go longer than a year. So there's other like math you can do to say, what's the lifetime value of that client? I don't like to look at marketing that way because I'm just too frugal. So I look at it as like, I need to make money this year for sure. Like I want to make money on every new client. I don't want to lose money on them and like sacrifice margin this year for the chance that they refer somebody or something like that. But given the numbers that you told me, I'd say like 200 is probably like your acquisition cost for that type of client, where you'd be like, yeah, once it starts to get above 200, like mathematically now, they're maybe not going to be as profitable as we'd want them to be. Maybe they're break even. Anyway, that's how I'd think about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think we like know, like, so if we look at our Facebook ads and we're like this much per lead, we book this many leads and we like close this many of those clients, we can take a look at it that way and we know like around that number. But then I don't think we've taken out, like, we pay a marketing company that like does all of our ad creation, stuff like that. We haven't like accounted that into like that many leads. You know what I mean? Like if you get like 1,000 leads because you did Facebook with this company, which is like, $10 per lead extra, we need to like do that math as well. So
Yeah, I feel like that's something you could help with, Dan. Like, I don't know, even like I get the concept of it, but just even like going through, like, would you just go through for the year how many new clients you sign up? What was your marketing spend? And like, what's your calculation on it? Because I can look at our cost per result really easily, but then to actually figure out, like, sometimes the results they called that never got entered in the CRM because we talked to them on the phone and they wanted their lawn cut once for $20, and it's hard to. It's like that's where the breakdown is between like what the cost per result is and how many are actually closing from that result.
Let me show you guys what we do in Minneapolis actually.
Sweet. Oh,
we do this in all of our locations, and we were messing around with Thumbtack today to see, like, is Thumbtack really paying off for us? But anyway,
wait, what's Thumbtack?
It's like Home Advisor. I think you guys just got Home Advisor, but maybe it's called something else, right? In Canada,
we have something called Home Stars. I don't think we have Home Advisor yet.
Yep, that's pretty much Home Advisor, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like data that we keep by month, and like May is still running totals, but we look at, so we have like Home Advisor, Angie's List, Thumbtack is another, like, those are, I call them like speed leads. Like you're competing with a whole bunch, you're all paying for the same lead. Next door is ND and then Yelp. They're like, we don't do a ton of marketing through them, but in general, you're like paying for a lead and competing with other companies that also paid for the same lead, and you're all chasing the same damn lead. So we got that. We have a TV thing that we do, Twin Cities Live. We've got a few different radio stations that we're on. When we buy a company, like we do an acquisition, how many leads are we getting like from that acquisition? Especially a lot of times when we buy small companies, we pay them a % of any revenue we get from their client list. And so we treat them like an acquisition cost, like we're buying their client list and we're treating it like we're buying marketing. We're just trying to convert, their client list into our clients. Organic, internet, Google ads, Google local, we kind of have that all lumped together. And a lot of people, like, radio is kind of goofy because a ton of people hear us on the radio, and then we like they say they found us online, and when we're in their home, they're like, well, I hear you guys on the radio all the time, so I looked you up on Google, and then it like converts as a Google. So that one's always kind of funny. We do a little bit of Facebook, but again, like we market on Facebook and then they buy on Google, referrals and then other leads. So we have like total lead count. And now on the spend side, I break it down between ad spend alone and then like total marketing spend. So ad spend is going to be like how much money got spent on Google ads, how much money got spent on Facebook ads, how much money got spent on radio ads. There's going to be more marketing spend after that on like who's doing the ads for you on your GoDaddy, on your Responsibid software, like any marketing pricing related software that clients can use to buy, or like website related stuff and infrastructure, any like charitable donations. So anything like that, we still include in our total marketing spend. And when I look at acquisition cost, I include all that stuff. So I look at ad spend and I can see how much we're doing. And then I look at like what's our total spend, and you can see on ads, we spent 25,000. But if I total up all the other marketing related spend, we're at 36,000 so far this year. But it gives me a cost per lead ad spend wise, the cost per lead total. And then I have new clients, and then I get, acquisition costs just based on ad spend and acquisition cost based on total. And we want to be at around 100 with a 66% conversion. Clearly we're converting a little bit higher, which means we need to raise our prices a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good conversion rate.
We have the conversion rate pretty dialed in, but we also have a low average job cost compared to a lot of people in the exterior cleaning industry. We sell over the phone. We don't sell a lot in person. And it's pretty transactional and really easy for them to buy. So our conversion rate is super high. Our acquisition cost sucks this month because we ran a bunch of like radio marketing here, and we paid the bill here. So
that makes sense. I was looking at that. I was like,
yeah, and we won't have, so like I don't scrutinize any individual month too hard because the timing of the cash flows can make it lumpy. But I'm always kind of looking at this like, how are we tracking for the year? We're definitely a little bit high. One of the tricky things that we find with radio is it tends to attract a lot of repeat business. Like people wait to hear us on WCCO, and that's their trigger to be like, oh, I got to call Blue Skies to like get my windows cleaned. So it's kind of a funny like repeat thing. But we do this, like here's Minneapolis window cleaning, but if I look at Cleveland home cleaning, same thing. Like where are the leads coming from? How many total leads? What's the total spend in each category? What are the targets? This is recurring service, so conversion rates are a lot lower, and we're willing to spend a lot more. Like I said, for home cleaning, for us, it's $250. For you guys, given that the season's short, it's maybe like $200. Margin structure is probably pretty similar between that type of business and home cleaning. So anyway, that's how we break it down. The next level of data that I'd like to get is how many clients from each of those lead sources are converting. But we always take the lead sources with a grain of salt anyway, because like I said, most of them say they came from Google, even though we know that they're hearing us on the radio or seeing this thing or seeing us on TV. And then they just go search for you online and they say they found you online. So we gotta scrutinize that a little bit and just calculate the acquisition cost overall, knowing that it's like all working together. And if anything's out of line, we have to make some judgment calls on which levers to pull more of or pull less of.
So
we've never.
are you pulling that data from your CRM, or are you having someone manually input that each month?
I mean, every time we're pulling it from our CRM. So like some of it comes from Service Autopilot. There's a new leads report in there, and you can see who the leads are, where they came from, and if they're a client or not. So we use that for any of our businesses that are on Service Autopilot. But we do have to be really diligent. Like anytime somebody calls, we have to get their information entered into Service Autopilot as a lead. And we made the source field mandatory. So they can't, and we used to have like a source that was like other, and then and people just started clicking freaking other, right? Now I think we have the problem of like our office people, if they forget to ask, they click internet. But we created a category called forgot to ask instead of other, so that they at least have to like fall in the sort a little bit if they forget to ask. But that's how we get the source data, is just plainly asking the lead where they heard about us.
So then is the goal everybody who calls gets entered into your CRM right away, even if it's not something like, even like, 'cause like for example, someone might call us and say, do you do pressure washing? We don't do pressure washing. Would you still try to enter them so you have that lead? Because that's like where we run into the issue.
Yeah, we as long as we have their info and can like send them something, we'll enter them in. And so we know that we have people entered that are not like right now are not searching for the thing that we have, but someday might be. On the flip side of that, we know that we don't get all the leads entered because life is hectic. You hang up the phone and then you get the next thing and you're like, shit, I forgot to enter them. So it's like, I'm sure there's ones that we enter that aren't super active, and I'm 100% sure there's ones that we miss too. And there's like some human error that's always going to go into it, but I'd say we probably capture 98% of them, and miss like a couple a week here or there.
Makes sense.
How now I get to ask you guys more questions. How so if maintenance is like your fastball, how do you start cross-selling the hardscaping, the landscaping stuff, the snow removal stuff? Do you push any of that stuff with marketing, or do you only market the maintenance? And then once somebody's like a maintenance client, and let me without wanting to like talk too much and bore everybody to death, I have found in our business, it's really hard for us to cross sell somebody from like window cleaning to maid service where we have it. They like somebody that's a window cleaning client is like transactional. They wrap their mind around paying for this thing. They don't want to be like a relationship client, whereas like somebody that's a maid service client, you're in their freaking house, every 2 weeks. Therefore, it makes it pretty easy to sell them window cleaning because they're like, yeah, I already pay you like $150 a week to be here. What's another $400 to get my windows cleaned in my house, pressure wash or whatever? Like that cross sell happens really naturally. Harder to like go the other direction. So in your business, how do you cross sell to those bigger one-time services? And do you find a similar relationship like that it's not that hard to cross sell project-based stuff to somebody that you already have a relationship, whereas it's hard to sell the maintenance stuff to somebody that you did one-time work for? Two-part question.
Who wants to go first, me or you, Matt?
I think you have a little more experience in that area.
Okay, I'll rip it. You can add on or let me know. Just chime in if you want. Okay, so for like starters, we send out monthly newsletters to all our clients, and it's usually like very short, couple sentences, but just during the spring we advertise like just we do reoccurring maintenance, and then in the off season we usually try to push installation and just say like now's a great time because no wait time on getting your project installed. Like we sometimes do out of season deals and stuff like that. So we cross sell in that regard. I would say it's probably pretty hard to sell like someone who gets like weekly cut mowing done for $40 to like sell them on like rebuilding their patio or something. But I think it's probably quite easy to sell them on a service like fertilizer or property cleanup or mulch. And I don't think we do an amazing job at that yet. My hope is, and I don't know if it's true, but that most of our residential maintenance clients, and I know we send a welcome package. I don't know if we talk about all our services, but my hope would be that like maybe not as much cross-selling to them directly, but like when it's time that they need something done, like a patio, like getting their yard cleaned up or whatever, that they just think of us right away and call us anyway. So we end up cross-selling, I think, quite a bit to those clients, but maybe not as like direct or strategically, like we're being, how do we convert this person to this as well? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the gist. I don't know, Matt, would you add to that?
Yeah, I'd say like our biggest form of cross-selling is our newsletters. It's like a chance for our clients to like see what's going on. Like it could be like right now is like it's the time of year to do fertilizer, or in the summer, like mulching your beds, like it retains moisture and like gives the trees and shrubs the nutrients it needs. And like that kind of stuff. I'd say it works like decently well. I wouldn't say like our conversion's incredible. One like other thing, like with the snow removal, like we have a property manager list, and then like every kind of like early fall, we go through each property manager and we email them and check in, see if they need snow removal. And I would say that's like really helped our snow removal end of the business, because like this last year, I think we tripled our snow removal, which was like awesome. So that's probably like our biggest form of cross selling. But then we're hoping like this coming year as we like grow, we're going to be hiring like an account manager, and then that person will be really focusing in on like the relationships of property managers, and then utilizing like quoting like upgrades on all of our strata properties, which like will hopefully really help our cross selling. Just like right now, like we're trying to like get that low hanging fruit, but with like being booked out like 6 to 8 weeks, it's like we're just making sure that we can complete the work that we've booked. So
yeah, yep. Do you yeah, I'll transition to this. Do you find like that's a normal amount to be booked out? Like, are you shooting for 6 to 8 weeks, or if you get booked out 6 to 8 weeks, you're like, oh shit, we need to hire a whole bunch of people? Or is it like a seasonal hump? They like, yeah, we're booked out 6 to 8 weeks now, but it should go down because of course it's May. We're going to be booked out 6 to 8 weeks. Like, is that what you're shooting for, or is that like a panic button? Like, we need to hire some people because we're not gonna be able to complete all this stuff.
I think like regularly this would be like, this is crazy, let's hire more people, because like we've never been booked out as far as we are now, and it's like a really good problem to have. But part of the challenge we're running into this year is like we kind of planned to like hit these goals this year, and like I said, we're going to grow from like 1.3 million to hopefully $2 million this year, and like that's put a lot of stress on our management team. And we've like hired people in there, and we think we're going to add one more management position than we thought we were going to, but like we're kind of at critical capacity on that end. So we're like, we've been hiring people and we're all hired up, and at this point like we'd have to like add someone to like our management / leadership team, which is like, it's like a whole corporate restructure, and like it's like, can you do that while like you're flying the airplane, you know what I mean? And you're like trying to fix the airplane, but then like you're like, oh, we gotta like add another pilot to the airplane. So like it almost feels like, okay, like let's like focus in on like being better and being more productive, and like tweaking systems. Like we hired a new estimator this year, and like we tweaked a lot of estimation systems and stuff like that, and then just like make everything run a little bit better before we like grow to the next level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Can I chime in on that?
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Go back to that.
No, let's hear it.
So, well, for one, I think it'd be good, like our office manager, Kayla, if you were to ask her, because I think she gets a lot of calls right now with people being upset that they're booked out so long.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is going back to the installation end and having kind of the two divisions, like softscaping, hardscaping. I think for the hardscaping, people are willing to wait a little bit longer. Like they're getting a patio built, they want done professionally, they want done right. They might be spending, $10,000, $20,000. So they're willing to wait for that. But then when someone's like, I'm paying $900 to get my hedges trimmed, they don't really want to wait 6 weeks, kind of idea. So
yeah,
that's where it's kind of hard. So it's figuring out like, and that's something I'm kind of trying to analyze this year and figure out, but like, how do you get those clients more on demand, and then serve those clients that are, well, you can continue to like serve those clients that are willing to wait for, the higher dollar tickets.
Yeah.
And I think having that hardscaping crew booked out, 2-3 months is okay, because it's like easier on the schedule end. But like those small maintenance property cleanup things, they're tricky, and we can't quite figure it out, because usually, people aren't excited for 6 weeks. It's like calling to get a haircut and then being like, we can fit you in 6 weeks.
My wife and I had to make a medical appointment today, and they're like, yeah, we can see you like June 23rd. And my wife's like, no, like I'm shooting for like by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Like, so I hear it. What you kind of alluded to this, but I want to ask it outright. Do you have separate crews for maintenance stuff, normal like landscaping stuff and hardscaping stuff? Are those like 3 separate crews? Is there any crossover to how you manage your capacity in that regard?
Yeah, so I'll chime in. So I've been talking a lot. Matt, feel free to butt in if you want. So it's kind of funny. When we started, we had like distinct separation, right? I ran the hardscaping, Matt ran the maintenance. And it was like two separate divisions. And then we decided like people were getting tired because they mow lawns all day or they move gravel all day. So we're like, let's put everyone in the same group, and then like they might get to mow and then install a patio. But then we had like all these issues with like two people who just cut lawns their whole life are installing a patio. So then we've kind of gone back and separated it. So now we have a little bit more of a defined, like we have hardscaping foremans and maintenance foremans, and within the hardscaping we have like Hunter and Cody, who are kind of like our construction, more like patio walls, doing kind of those bigger projects. And then we have two other guys like Mac and Josh, and they'll do some construction stuff as well, but they're kind of overseeing, they'll do more kind of smaller projects, property cleanups, that kind of thing. And we haven't dialed it quite in, but having that distinct separation like allows us to hopefully one day train better and grow people quicker and kind of have a more defined pipeline for people as well.
Gotcha. Do you is there like weather circumstances that ever dictate like, hey, we can't do the maintenance stuff today because it's pouring out, but that means the sod is soft, so we can go do this other thing in the rain? Like, are there day-to-day trade-offs where you're like, hey, like let's move that crew over to this thing because of X, Y, or Z? Or do you pretty much just keep them separate the whole time?
We mostly keep them separate. I think like in our climate, through like kind of March through June, it like rains almost every day. Like
it's just gonna be raining anyway, right? Like,
we're in a temperate rainforest, so that's like our climate. So it rains basically every day. So learning how to deal with that is like kind of the challenge of like our business. And like obviously mowing's a little bit harder in the rain, but we keep our blades sharp so that we can bag that grass. And yeah, I think like one of the big challenges we run into is like on our hardscaping projects. I think Dave can like add to this a little more, is like we have to do some more like poly sand, and like there's some things that like happen that it needs to be dry. So we run into like a challenge on like completion of projects. And then sometimes we have a backlog of like 4 large projects that we need to like finish so that we can get paid, so that we can keep running our business. And that's like one of the larger challenges we usually run into.
Gotcha.
Yeah, to like add to that, like so we recently hired a production manager who was our old estimator. His name's Dave. We call him Holtby or Little Dave or whatever. And sometimes not as much like there's not as much weather issues where he's making the call. But for example, I think he's listening, but like he claims the sod company screwed up, but sod didn't show up at a job site the day it was supposed to. And then he's thinking on his feet to like move crews around and reallocate. Mm-hmm. And then like what Matt hit on is like synthetic grass and pavers need dry days to do like the infill and the paving sand or the polymeric sand.
Yeah.
And so we have those like things that are kind of done on the fly, and it's like messy. Like we're not perfect, but I don't know how you like book something 3 months out and have the weather factor in. But yeah, we have tried to like try to figure out, like even I've thought about like maybe we only offer patios between, you know, June, July, August or something, but definitely don't have it quite dialed. But yeah, Dave's in place kind of make those on the fly decisions. But it's really hard. Like when Matt and I were just running the business and overseeing, let's say 3 crews, we could really make those on the fly decisions. With like 9 crews, and I suspect with like 30 crews, a lot more difficult to have like a vision of everything. So I think it's better if we can just be better planned up front. But yeah, the weather's a tricky one.
Yeah. I'll so to that point in managing crews between the maintenance and the hardscaping stuff, and maybe even as you like break apart hardscaping and other landscaping, what metrics do you use to manage production and quality and profitability? Are they the same across the different divisions of the business? Are you finding that they need to be different based on how that work gets done and the trade-offs you have to make?
Yeah, like we're actually learning a lot about that this year. We run everything on a like budgeted hour versus actual hour system. Our office manager puts together a daily and a weekly scoreboard, and that's kind of how we run our bonuses as well. Like everyone's on like $1 per hour plus this much bonus if we hit bonus that week.
Nice. And do you guys pay weekly then?
We pay bi-weekly.
Okay.
Yeah. So Yeah, like our basically on the maintenance end, we have like a higher hourly rate because we spend less time on each property. So like basically like 6 hours of productive on-site work is equal to like 8 hours of pay kind of thing. So they have their budget hours for the day, and then our project crews, all their hours in the day are allocated to that project, and then they have like a certain amount of hours to complete their project. So, and then they're given feedback on that like every day, and like we have group chats for everything, and then everyone kind of banters a little bit about it, and yeah.
So I'd imagine like maintenance, you can get a handful of jobs done a day, and you're probably not leaving a job undone. It's like, yeah, work a little later, just like get that damn job done and then head back to the shop. With hardscaping or project-based stuff, I gotta imagine there's jobs that are a week long or more at the high end. How do you manage? Are you like looking at a percent completion on a daily basis? Like how are you looking at it in terms of like, we're 3 days in, how much have we actually gotten done? Like how do you manage that project-based budget to say, are you on track or behind or ahead?
Yeah, I can chat on that. So right now we're doing like a 12-day budget, a 12-day project. And it's not perfect. So what we said for like the scoreboards purposes for what the guys see, they see a daily scoreboard, so how they're doing. So like for example, this project does 196 hours. Tomorrow they'll see they've used 16 of 196. So you can get a read on it. But then at the end of the week, we do like a weekly assessment of the scoreboard. And on that scoreboard is only the jobs that were completed that week. And so what happened is, and I still don't think we have this perfect, is sometimes we'll have like, let's say a 2-week project scheduled to end on Friday, and we'll do everything but polysand, and it's a 200-hour project, and then it won't make it to that week's scoreboard because it didn't complete in that week. And then what's even worse is when that job is like way off budget hours in either direction, because then they either start the next week, well, it either makes them like miss the, they get a bonus based on the scoreboard. I don't know if Matt hit on that, but
you mentioned it.
It'll sometimes make them like if it had been on the scoreboard, they would have made bonus, but since it wasn't, they didn't. Or sometimes the hours would be really bad, and therefore they got the bonus, and then the following week they're in this huge deficit to start. So it's not perfect. I'd say like it's been a problem a couple times, but it's not often a problem. And for simplicity's sakes, our system's good. It's just it's sometimes hard. I think it's really helpful that they can see the like budget hours to actual hours in real time every day. But I think that system will continue to evolve and improve. But that's some of the hurdles we run into.
Yeah. I had a buddy that runs a couple $1 million like high-rise window cleaning company outside of San Fran. And he and I worked on a commission structure for him where it was kind of based on budgeted hours, and then either like weekly at some like interval, somebody would have to make a call on like percent completion and say, budgeted hours say we should be 50% done, but the crew lead that's out there that calls the shot says we're 60% done because of X, Y, and Z, or we're 40% done because of X, Y, and Z. And so we never like got it perfect. We were like messing around with it on his, like, cause he's cleaning a high-rise building, and sometimes it's a 2-week window clean, because you're going down all the different drops and all the different sides of that huge high rise. And so like you could carve up the building and say like this side's a quarter, that's a little more easier mathematically to be like, well, we got this half of this quarter done, so we're an eighth of the way done with the building type of thing. Versus hardscaping, I gotta imagine it's like, well, we're, generally once we have this step in the process done, we're halfway through. But because this project is a little bit different, we're maybe not halfway through. Like I feel like it'd be tough in some cases to make the judgment call on just how done it is or how not done it is, I guess.
Totally. I just wanted to add 2 things to that. One thing we're talking about is doing like an extended work order for those hardscaping projects, and then making like daily goals kind of idea. And then we could have some sort of checklist to be like, oh, we're done 5 to 10 days on the halfway point on hours. But I'd say the bigger problem we have is on our stratas, because it's a contract for a year. And then we try to break it down to weekly visits, but we don't know what like the growth pattern is going to be. Oftentimes it's like the first year on the site, so we don't really know what to expect. We don't know what the weather's going to be. So we have like our maintenance foremen. So we have like Tristan, who runs our ride-on crew, and then Dawson, who runs one of our mowing crews. And they have the ability to like either both ways, right? They can crush budget hours and not do anything, and then like, oh, we're hitting bonus, but then some weeks we'll get like screwed because we're gonna get all these complaints, and then all of a sudden like spend all this time there, and then like the scoreboard's getting, you know, hammered that week, but ultimately over the year it might work out sort of balance. So I don't know, Matt, I could probably talk on this more, but the stratas is like probably the biggest thing we can't really figure out how to accurately track and add to the scoreboard.
Yeah, the stratas, like obviously HOAs in the United States, it's like definitely been a challenge for us. Like the contract, like there's like goals in the contract, and then we break it down in an Excel sheet. We have like 44 visits, hours for each visit, goals for each visit. Each like strata has like a section. We work in this section, we do this kind of thing. And like a lot of energy has went into like doing that for them all, but it's still not this like perfect system, because like in like early May, the lawns are growing probably twice as fast as they will grow, maybe even 3 times as fast as they will grow all year. So then like there's like this like huge like time discrepancy, and then like we've been like so behind. Everyone's been working long days, and even like this last week, like people are getting in earlier, like the days are shortening out. Like we're being a little bit better on our scoreboard. So it's like there's no way to like, we could put flex time in to like account for that, but then there's like this like management burden, if that makes sense. So then and like huge planning burden, because like you don't really know what the weather's gonna do, so how do you like account for flex time? So
to that point, like if it's raining out, how much longer does it take to do of like a maintenance, mow and trim type of thing versus if it's dry out and the grass isn't as long? Like, is there time saved, or is it roughly the same either way?
well, like in like July, August, like we'll be at 40% probably faster on all our sites.
Oh, really?
And like if it rains, yeah, because like the grass doesn't really grow as fast. Like it's so hot out, and like
so you can just
grass
like
isn't
just
growing.
in terms of like you can just run the equipment faster and it'll do as good of a job type of thing, or what? Where do you gain the efficiency?
You can run it faster. So like say like you're cutting like a 2,000 square foot lawn, and in May you take out 3 bags of grass out of your lawnmower. In like July, August, you'll take out half a bag of grass. So like your equipment will run like probably twice as fast. So then you're like, in some areas you're just walking over the lawn to put lines in the lawn and like get it done. But then like, yeah. So if it rains, then it doesn't matter. If it rains and it's super long, like, yeah, the equipment gets bogged down a little bit, probably takes about 20% longer. And
I bet we'd have I bet there'd be more callbacks on those days too. Like I don't know for sure, but just like it doesn't cut as nicely. You also even have like added management time, because people will just call and be like, come tomorrow when it's dry. And we'll be like, well, usually we'll say we can't, but like there's just, it adds headache for sure.
Yep.
And, to add to that, like also for the construction guys, like if they're installing dirt or anything, like it's twice as heavy if it's raining, and it does slow down things quite a bit. But obviously, we can kind of account for the season when we quote it, whereas the annual maintenance, you don't have that luxury.
Okay. Do you this is kind of like thinking out loud, and I don't know if this is gonna come out as a question or a statement, so we'll see. Is there a way, or do you, let's say like the strata, you sign an annual contract and it's X amount of dollars. Do you allocate more to the months where it's going to be a pain in the butt? Like if April and May are going to be that much wetter, do you say like, hey, we got this $100,000 contract and it's for 10 months, so every month is $10,000, but really April and May need to be like $15,000, and the rest of the months can like split the difference? Do you weight it like that for scoreboard purposes, or do you just kind of treat it all equally by month?
Yeah. So what we kind of do is we break it into visits, and then each visit has a goal. So like right now we have like reoccurring visits where like we mow and weed every visit, and like it takes a little bit longer now. And like, to be honest, there's no change from now until like July, August. At July, August, we do go bi-weekly. So there is a couple, like there's less mowing visits, but each mowing visit has a set amount of hours.
Gotcha.
And we might add flex time next year, but then there's fertilizing visits that are extra that are going to happen through the spring a little bit more as well, like aeration, lime. And then we have 2 large visits a year. Sorry, 2, where we do like cleanups. So we'll come in and we'll shear all the shrubs on the property, and that'll be like a larger visit. And that happens in like June. And then, August or like November, depending on how much water we get in the summer. if that
Okay.
makes sense, like how much rain. So
Gotcha.
you
So
almost,
you're kind of allocating it based on where the visits land, roughly based on what you expect.
yeah, but each mowing visit has the same amount of hours. So
Gotcha. Okay. Dave, were you gonna say something? You look like you had something
Nothing
rolling.
really. It's just like interesting with the strata because it's like a 12-month contract billed monthly. It's all equal payments. So it's
Yeah.
like this awkward, I don't know, like, because if you look at, your revenue per man hour in the spring, it's going to be worse than your revenue per man hour in December or whatever, just because you're doing the same amount of revenue. And that's something I've been like, I don't know, just processing and trying to figure out, like, would there ever be a way that they get billed differently each month? But I think stratas would have a like freak out if that was the case. But
Yep.
it's just, yeah, it's just an interesting challenge. And we've had it where like they'll hire, will come on, in February, we'll work through the spring. They won't be happy because we're playing catch up and, probably our fault. But then they'll try to cancel with us in like July, August, and then we're usually willing to let them cancel because we don't like force people to stay in our contract. But then like we're not really making money those months, and then we make money on the winter months because it's just an awkward game to some level.
Yep. Yeah, I got you. Do you do the hardscaping stuff for stratas as well, or is stratas mostly maintenance stuff?
Well, it's mainly maintenance, but we've actually had it a few times where we've done like a hardscaping project for a unit, and then they've connected us with the council, or they've been on council, and then we've got the maintenance or the snow removal there. Matt, do you know if there's any stratas where you've done like common area improvements or something? I don't think there's many of that.
we haven't done a lot of common area improvements. We do some like bark mulch installations and stuff for our stratas, but like for the most part, we do a lot of jobs for like residents of stratas, but that's like them personally getting a job done in their unit, if that makes sense.
Yep, gotcha. Do you so like stratas / HOAs, is that more common versus for you guys versus like property managers that are overseeing like a whole townhome or apartment association? Do you guys run into that, or is it more of the HOA strata type of thing?
I think you're gonna have to elaborate on your questions. In my mind, they're the same thing.
So like we have a lot of cases where like a neighborhood of houses will be in an HOA, homeowners association. They'll use certain vendors for certain things, and they have like a little board, but it's all individual units, sometimes built by the same builder, and they'll look the same. But sometimes like just a neighborhood and a street like that all kind of got built at the same time. But it's mostly, I'll say, in my mind, 2,000 to 4,000 square foot homes. It's like in our area is what I'm familiar with, versus like in Minneapolis, we'll get an apartment complex with 80 units that wants all the windows cleaned, or the whole, like they have 80 units in 8 buildings and they want all the buildings pressure washed or something. So it's not necessarily an HOA in that like the board of the HOA isn't hiring us. The board of the HOA hires a property manager, and that property manager manages all the vendors, and that property manager like works for a property management company who has a lot of other properties too that they manage. So it's a little bit different than an HOA in my mind.
So
but I'm curious
what
if
you're
you guys
saying though,
differentiate.
is like the property manager works with the HOA though.
Yeah, like they work for a separate company. The HOA, like the board of the HOA just like hires a property management company to like find all the vendors and do all the shit. And the board
Yeah.
just kind of like collects the fees and allocates them to certain vendors.
That's mostly what we do. We we like to work with the property managers. Sometimes when we get involved with the strata, like the members, we can like sell a couple more jobs kind of thing.
Mhm.
I find like if this is just from experience, but if a like HOA board or strata board hasn't hired a property manager, they're usually incredibly frugal, and it usually isn't a great relationship because
Yep.
they're looking to like keep the budget low and not do like cut corners kind of thing. And then, yeah, it just usually doesn't work in that case. But we usually like to work with property managers. And then for those projects, we'll like meet with the strata members. And then you get to meet with like the 3 to 4 old ladies on strata. They show you what to do. And then you give them a quote, and then they're stoked,
Can I add on to that?
You sure can.
Just
This time I'll allow it.
thanks for giving me permission. The oh man, I lost my train of thought now because you threw me off.
Now I'm just being a
Um,
smart ass
no,
over here.
just in as far as I know, in our area, there isn't like a bunch of neighbors on a block that started an HOA. Like, I don't think that's a thing here. So, like, when we say strata, like, all of those are like complexes, and I would consider them like row homes. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it like has a garage. There's probably like 3 or 4 units all in one building, and
Yep.
they're about 12. And the complex might have, anywhere from probably a small one like 20 units to a big one with like 100 to 150 units.
Yep.
And then that'll have its own address, but each unit will be 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. So like
Yep.
that's pretty much what we're referring to as strata. And I'm
Yep.
pretty sure, like the most part, it's like when they're built, the builder hires a property management company. They come in and they get members on council and whatever, and then we deal with the property manager. So
Yep.
when you said HOAs and you were saying like, oh, individual houses on a street that make a homeowners association, like that doesn't happen here as far as I know. But
Yeah.
I might be,
it's usually and that it's like a unique differentiation, I think. It's usually newer neighborhoods that are all built by the like one builder will go in and build a whole neighborhood and declare like sections of those neighborhoods as parts of an HOA, and then like the homeowners form a board to and create rules for the neighborhood, like you can't leave a car or boat parked in the driveway. You can't paint your house these colors. If you're going to add a deck, it has to be approved. Like it's a hoity-toity community thing to try to keep property values up. Basically, like you don't want an eyesore in a neighborhood. My wife and I, our last house, we were in one, and like we couldn't build a chain link fence. We redid our deck without asking. I was like, I'm very much like the easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So like technically we couldn't redo our deck without getting approval from the HOA. But I was like, fuck that. I'm just like, I need to replace these deck boards because they're getting rotten. They're like 20 years old. So I'm a dude. I'm gonna buy some power tools. I'm gonna like redo my deck, right? Technically I wasn't supposed to do that. So like that's what an HOA would be here, but the like that nomenclature, it kind of extends to the apartment or townhome style stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which gets me to the last thing I wanted to cover. Like, I'm gonna transition to this. If there's anything, like anybody that's watching, if you guys got questions, throw them in the comments. Dave or Matt, if you guys are like, oh, I want to talk about this, hit me with it. But one thing that I've always been curious, and I feel like this is I feel like naturally Canadians know more about the U.S. than the U.S. knows about Canada because the U.S. is just a bunch of arrogant assholes. No offense, us. But like that HOA strata example, I think, is just one of like the uniquenesses of how we like do things differently or view things differently. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting to not like debate, but just like kick around some of the nuances of operating in Canada versus operating in the US. Cause I'm like curious about it, of like different things you have to go through. I have a buddy, Eric Kelly, who's up in Vancouver and does pressure washing. And sometimes like some of the stuff he says, I'm like, you got to do what? Like, what's the rule about that? Like, it just doesn't ring a bell. So, HOAs and stratas, we've already covered a little bit, but accounting wise, like in the US, we do cash basis accounting for pretty much all small businesses. Bigger businesses have to do accrual basis. My understanding, I don't even know if I have this right, is that in Canada, you kind of have to do accrual basis accounting. Is there any like wiggle room there or what? How do you have to keep track of your stuff?
Well, it's funny because I didn't even realize until I met a few American business owners that you guys had the option of doing cash basis accounting.
I'm gonna let you answer this. I'm just gonna go grab another drink.
Good idea.
There we go.
I think I maybe hit on this earlier, but I'm an accounting student as well. So in school, we always just learned accrual base. And then when we started the business, we just did accrual. But I'm confident that our tax laws require us to do accrual based accounting for everything. And all our like depreciation of assets and stuff have all like pre-described rates by the government. So we have all the different classes and then we get to write them off at different tax amounts and stuff. So I'm sure like I don't have it 100% correct, but as far as I know, there isn't wiggle room. We do it on accrual basis. I think there's some items where there's like, you know, for some reason, I know like if you own I don't know if this is a thing in the States, but if like you own a commercial building and you your landscaping redone, you can write all of that off the year it was done, even if you're going to have the benefit for 10 years. But then that's like the only exception. Everything else you have to accrual base.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so like in the US, if you're gonna buy an asset, so the cutoff here is $2,500. So like if I bought a pressure washer for $2,000, I can expense it all in year one, and it hits the P&L as a pressure washing, tools and equipment. If it's $2,500 and hits that $2,500 threshold, then I have to capitalize it, and even under cash basis, I still need to capitalize it as equipment. And then I think the useful life of that's like 3 years, and it gets depreciated over 3 years or whatever the case is. So we still have, even under cash basis, you still have depreciation laws that come into effect as to whether it hits your P&L or your balance sheet. But where cash basis comes in handy for us is like revenue wise. If we go and do work at Mrs. Jones's house, and let's say we go do $1,000 job there, and it's late November, and she doesn't pay us until January, like we don't show the revenue on our books until January. Whereas accrual basis, you would show the revenue when you send the invoice, and you'd kind of keep your AR along with your accounting records. Under cash basis, we don't record it for tax purposes until we actually have the money in the bank account. And same with stuff like payroll would probably be the best example, and payroll taxes and stuff like that. The expense doesn't hit our P&L, even though like this week I have a bunch of employees that are earning wages, and like technically we owe that money. We're not going to see that money leave our bank account until next Thursday. We pay weekly, but the wages that employees earn this week are going to get paid next Thursday, and therefore it hits our P&L next Thursday instead of like this week, which if you were doing accrual basis, you'd have to record the expenses this week. So I think the benefit of cash basis to me is it just saves me a lot of work of like having to make all the journal entries for accrual basis this week, and then next Thursday being like, okay, unwind that journal entry because now we actually paid the thing. So I just it's kind of like lazy man's bookkeeping, but I like it for small businesses because accrual basis is a lot of work. It's like at least 3x the amount of work to keep track of all the obligations versus just when the money comes and goes.
yeah.
So
I think payroll similar for us. I don't think it hits until we pay it out, but we
Okay.
definitely look at when we invoice for the job is when it shows up on our P&L. So like our accounts receivable will like get up into like the six figures and stuff, and we're paying tax on that. So that's a thing. I thought for some reason in the States you could just buy anything and like buy a truck and write it off year one, but that's not the case.
Under Trump, there was a tax law that he put in that for small businesses, like if I forget what the threshold was, but I think it was like if you spent under $1 million in capital, then you were eligible for a 179 deduction, which basically was like if you buy a piece of equipment or a truck or whatever, you can write it off all in year one. I'm sure that'll go away under Biden, but I don't know for sure. It was mostly a way to like help small businesses not have to mess with depreciation for a while, for new stuff. Like you still, if you had already bought something, you were still like, running the MACRS depreciation schedule. And I forget what the hell MACRS stands for, but it's some acronym, MACRS, for modified accrual depreciation. So yeah, I'd be curious. I should do a little research on it for Canada to see what like the discrepancies are.
You should get our accountant on your show. She can tell you all about it.
That'll be a good time. I haven't had a lot of other accountants on this show for the fear of nobody would watch. Like if there were two accountants on here, well, like how boring would that be? Just like let's get super nerdy. Someday I'll do it. What are there any things that you guys can think of where you're like, I know in the US you guys have this, but in Canada we got to do this. Any like employee related stuff or labor law related stuff that you guys can think of?
The big one, sorry, Matt, I was going to say something different, but like you guys have like S Corp, C Corp, all that stuff. We just have Corps. And I don't know exactly how yours works, but for the most part, we just have the one. There's like a few There's like some other one, but like pretty much everyone is just a normal corporation here.
Okay. Is there any differentiation between like a publicly traded corporation versus a small business corporation?
Well, publicly traded I don't know anyone that has had a company go public, so
Just a lot more rules.
a lot more
Yeah.
rules. But up until that point, I think like I would assume our corporation is the same as every private corporation for the most part up until it goes public.
Is there a like if when you start mowing lawns and you guys had, you know, a handful of lawns, is there a trigger that says like, oh, you're doing this much, now you need to be a business? You can't just be like a dude doing a thing.
Well,
Like, what's the trigger?
we were like a proprietor or whatever, like a partnership, and so we had like a registered business and business license. But then it was all like we were taxed as like we just put it towards mine and Matt's income and split it. So
Yep.
then just at some point, it was actually I think like February 10th of 2018, we just decided like it's time to incorporate. So we incorporated and probably should have sooner. But I would say like most businesses, unless they're like owner operator style business, incorporate pretty quick.
Okay. So when you guys incorporate, is it that the business then pays the taxes on the income, or does the income flow through to you as the business owners and you as the business owners pay the income taxes?
Well, both, right? We have personal income and corporate income. So our corporation makes a certain amount, the corporation is taxed. Like there's all these small business deductions that works out to about 11%.
Okay.
And then Matt and I are paid, and then we're taxed
Yep.
as well. So we try to pay ourselves as much dividends as we can. There's a different tax on that or whatever, but the corporate rate is much more advantageous than the personal rate.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So in the US, if you're a C corp, which would be like a publicly traded company, a C corp pays taxes as a business. And I believe the logic is because there's so many owners of it, it would be difficult for the owners to pay the taxes on the, like, you have owners that own like 0.00001 share, you know, like percent of a company. Like it'd be goofy to try to allocate the income to the owners. So C corps pay somewhere around like 35% taxes. Any employee of the business pays income taxes on their wages, so forth. But the owners don't pay taxes on the income. The business pays taxes on the income. If you're a small business like an S corp, which would be what we are, or there's other like LLCs for limited liability companies, which is kind of like what most of us are. We just choose to be taxed as an S corp, and I won't get into all the differentiation. But basically, if you're not a C corp, our income flows through to the owner. We have 5 companies, it all rolls up into one S corp, and I have 3 business partners within like our holding company, and we all pay taxes at our own individual income tax level, not at like a company level. So it's kind of goofy because I have two of my business partners have another business venture that pushes them into the highest possible tax bracket. So they pay 50%, like between their state, federal, and their tax picture is like 50% of their income's going to go back for taxes. Mine's at like 25%. So if we have to pay like a distribution to pay taxes, I end up gaining a little bit. Like we have to pay enough distribution to cover their taxes, but because we all get taxed at our own personal income tax rate, it's like flows through in a funny way. Like our business doesn't actually pay taxes, but we as individuals, as the owners, pay the taxes on the income that the business earned. So a little different.
Yeah. So like just to give an example for us, if the corporation made $150,000 and we decided I'd take 50, Matt takes 50, and the corporation takes 50, Matt would be taxed his 50 at his rate, I'd be taxed my 50 at my rate, and the corporation would be taxed their 50 at 11%. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm saying everything true, but I'm pretty certain we could leave the whole 150 in the corporation, not take anything, and Matt and I wouldn't pay any personal taxes.
I think actually what happens on that, it all depends on how we take our income. So if we get paid as an employee on payroll, then the business won't pay income tax on that.
Yeah.
But if we get paid through a dividend, the business first pays income tax on that income. So we get taxed at 11%. So it may be less advantageous than what you guys are doing because we get that 11%, which moves up to like a higher percent once we like venture out of the small business like discount kind of thing, and then we pay our own personal income tax on the dividend that we received.
So it's double tax.
Yeah, we get double taxed.
But that
Oh, yeah.
dividend tax, the dividend tax is less than personal income tax. So like last year, I think Matt and I each paid around $8,000 in personal tax. But had we taken it as like just payroll, I think our accounts would be closer to like 20,000 in tax we would have paid.
Yep. Just be like, because you're taking the dividend after the business pays income taxes.
Yes.
But then like, so let's say a $10,000 dividend, and well, let's say an $11,000 dividend, and then the business pays their 11%, and this math doesn't work either. So son of a bitch. Let's go back to the 10,000 example, and let's just say if like the dividend tax or the income tax is 10%, because that's easy.
Yeah.
So like if you're going to pay a dividend, business has 10,000 to give, but it pays taxes of 10%. So you guys will get 9,000. Do you then get taxed again on that 9,000 at just like a smaller rate than if it was payroll, or is that 9,000 like free and clear because the business already paid the 10%?
Well, if it's distributed, we pay tax again on it. But if the corporation just holds it, we don't pay tax again on it.
Gotcha. So you guys do kind of get double taxed on distributions or dividends.
Yeah, you can take up to like 35,000 tax free or something like that. Like there's a limit. So then,
Okay.
and it's like I'm gonna draw it, but it's like a sliding scale. Like as you get into higher dividends, it makes more sense to start taking it out as payroll.
Yep.
But I don't know exactly. Matt and I haven't learned enough money to figure that problem out yet.
It'll be future Matt and future Dave's issue to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're
The
hoping so.
government always wins. That's what I always say. Like Trudeau, that's our prime minister. He always gets paid.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out a way not to pay him yet.
So in the US, like when we take distributions, they're pretty much untaxed. And so a lot of business owners in the US don't realize that. Now, how you want to take your income, like if you're taxed as an S corp versus taxed as a sole proprietor, like changes it, like whether you have to actually take a wage or not. And in general, you're better off taking a wage, because if you don't take a wage, you're better off being taxed as an S corp, taking a wage. And when you take a wage, you pay payroll taxes on that, which would be like 15.3% in the US, paying the employer and the employee portion of the payroll taxes. And you're going to pay income taxes on that. And then the rest of the income from the business, you're just going to pay your income taxes on. You don't have to pay any payroll taxes on it. And if you distribute it, you don't have to pay any distribution taxes. But the gimmick is, or the trick is that like the IRS is going to tax you on it whether you take any of it or not. So they don't give a shit if you distribute it. Like if you had $100,000 sitting there, I don't care if you take any of it. I'm gonna tax you on $100,000. Like that's how the IRS is gonna work. Like, oh, you made money, whether you took it or not. Like, give us our share, right? And you give them your share at your personal tax rate. The benefit of being taxed as an S corp in the U.S., and it starts to make sense when the business income hits like $25,000 and higher, is if you're taxed as a sole proprietor, which is like just as an individual out mowing lawns, and let's say the business makes $20,000. You first need to pay payroll taxes on that $20,000, even though you didn't take any payroll. You pay payroll taxes, and it looks and feels like income taxes, but it's basically you're paying as if you're the employee, and you're paying as if you're the employer. So you pay both portions of the payroll taxes, which is basically 15.3% of that $20,000. So call it like $3,000. And then of the 17,000 that's left, then you pay income taxes on that. So you're like paying payroll taxes first, and then the difference you pay your personal income taxes. Whereas if you're taxed as an S corp on that same $20,000, let's say you took 10,000 of it as a wage, you'd pay the 15.3 on that 10,000, not on the full 20,000, because you only took the 10,000 as a wage. So you'd be out $1,500 in payroll taxes instead of 3,000. You're going to pay income taxes on 18.5 now, because you only have 1,500 that went out the door as a payroll tax expense. So you have a little more income in the business. So your income taxes are going to be higher, but you generally save money because your payroll taxes went down. Like that's the game we have to play.
25,000 is your trigger.
Yeah. Around like $25,000 is where that savings starts to get to be like 1,500 or more. and that $1,500 you still end up having to pay a CPA to file that tax return. So like it's got to be like more than $1,000 worth to make it worth filing for the S corp status, having the CPA that's going to file that tax return, because things start getting more complicated. But if your business income's generally above like 25,000, it's pretty much always worth doing it.
Yeah, I do think we have some tax laws about like just leaving money in the corporation, like if it's not doing anything. I don't think you can just like shelter it in there to avoid taxes. So I don't know what that is. We don't have that problem, but I'm pretty sure it is some to some level of thing. But I don't know how it works or what.
Yeah, we got to get a Canadian CPA on here and just dive in. It'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be so engaging.
We're getting text
So many
messages
beers,
from
I
our
would be I would be
employees.
drinking all of this. I'll drink the whole bar.
Yeah.
Our employees are texting us being like, this is a lot of tax talk.
Good.
Matt,
Puffing them up.
I can't cut in there, but Matt, were you going to talk about employment law at all in Canada and what we have?
Yeah, I think like just some of like the biggest differences. Like I know there's like laws with us, so we have to pay vacation pay and we have to pay for stat holidays. So I think there's about like 9 holidays a year that we have to pay for. We have to pay for like vacation pay. It's about 4%, like 2 weeks a year, I think. I just know I've heard people in like different parts of America like complain about their local laws. And then I'm like, no, we have to do that. Like, so that's part of like who we are. And then we pay overtime after 8 hours every day and after 40 hours every week. So we get
it's
it
daily
overtime.
and weekly.
Yeah, daily and weekly. So like even a part-time employee could get overtime after 8 hours, which like I'm used to it. So we're like fine for it. We budget for it. But I know that like that could be pretty detrimental in some areas.
Yep. I would like in the US we don't have the regulation to like have to pay vacation pay, have to pay holiday pay. I think I would like that better because I could plan on it, I could budget for it, and I could price it versus I appreciate things that take decisions out of my hands. Like now we have to have a decision about which holidays we're going to take off, a decision about if we're going to pay people when we take them off, a decision about what the vacation policy needs to be and if we should have one or not. And I'd much rather just be like, oh, that's the law. Perfect. I'll follow that. And then I can price it and plan on it and budget for it. Like take as many decisions out of my hands as possible to like reduce the number of things I need to be thinking about. I'm all about that. Not that I'm lazy. I just got a lot of things to think about and I don't want to have to think about that.
I find that interesting. Like when I think about Americans, I always think you guys like hate regulation and don't want governments making rules for you. And I don't know. That's interesting. I like that.
I generally don't. Not like I generally don't, except for when it like it takes like guesswork out of stuff. Like there's some certain regulation where it's competition prohibitive. And so like I don't want to reduce competition necessarily, but I don't mind like leveling a playing field to let people compete well. Like government's necessary to some extent, and I'm not going to get into my political beliefs, but it's such like a weird needle to thread, right? Like you got to hit the sweet spot. Too much government really sucks, and not enough government really sucks because people are assholes. And if nobody's telling them what to do, they're just going to be more assholes. So it's like, you need some regs, you need to keep people in line. You need to like give people a purpose or whatever the case is. But it also sucks when you feel like you're losing freedoms to make decisions. So I don't know what the sweet spot is, and everybody probably has a different one.
Yeah. I also curious, like what your rules are on firing people. I don't know if like there it's much different, but I feel like I've heard different American friends be like, oh, I'll just fire this guy. And I feel like here it's like, I mean, not that we have any employees who want to fire, especially if they're listening, but no, not like at all. But like, it's not an easy thing here, right? Like they got to be like severance, do what, like cause, like all these different things. Is that
just cause?
Is that as regulated in the States? Or can you just be like, I don't like this guy today?
It's state by state, but it's usually at will. You can't discriminate, and like if there's any case for discrimination, like it's pretty easy to get sued as a business, even if it's like totally facetious. one of my business partners and one of his other businesses just went through a lawsuit, even though they had everything documented, that it was really clear there was no discrimination and the person had violated multiple policies. They still got sued for discrimination, which it was clearly like that was really what the person was going for. Like they weren't actually interested in the job. They were really just interested in the lawsuit to try to make some money one way or the other. But in general, in most of the states we operate in, and all the states we operate in, it's at will employment, which basically means we can fire anybody for any reason on any given day. It just can't be discriminatory. But if it's like you're just not jiving with our core values, you're showing up late, you're like whatever the case is, we hired you, we can fire you just as easily. But we can't discriminate through our hiring practices or through our like you're staying or you're not staying type of practices. The big thing I've found is just like document, have not a bunch of policies, but have really clear policies and have really clear documentation when people violate the policies. Because even though it's at will employment, like the US is just so lawsuit heavy these days. You just don't want to open yourself up to any bullshit and have to pay a lawyer to defend you. Because even if you're in the right, you're still out $20,000 at a minimum to try to defend yourself. And that just sucks because it's like it detracts your attention so hard from the things that actually matter and actually add value and let you take care of your employees and your customers. So just trying to, I wouldn't say we have it perfect, but we have a lot of documents that we have people sign. And when things start to get rough with any employee, we start laying down the paper trail pretty hard.
So I don't know if I'll dig into too much, but like when you say at will employment, like does that mean like someone could work here 5 years and you just be like, you're just not really a good fit here, I'm gonna let you go, and you don't have to pay them out or anything?
You don't have to. Different companies will have different policies as like well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know. We haven't run into a case where we've been obligated to pay severance at all. I can't say for certain whether there's certain industries or certain states or certain sizes of businesses that have it, but I am the foremost least HR expert on the planet, maybe. It's just not an interesting topic to me, and I really like I've actually been talking to our insurance guy because his company has like an HR thing that they'll sell us, and I'm kind of like, yeah, let's do that. Like, oh, you have HR people that will handle HR issues for us and let me know what we need to do and not do. That sounds perfect because I just need I want the regulation. I want somebody to tell me exactly what I need to do and where I need to be, so I don't need to think about it.
Yeah, that's good to know. I don't even actually really know what our laws are. I just know it's not easy to fire people, and I think we have to pay them a week severance for every year they work for us and stuff like that. So I think if you have enough cause, then you can fire them. But yeah, I've just heard that, so just curious.
Yeah. Yep. I've heard the same. Any other discrepancies, US Canada discrepancies you guys are thinking about?
I have a question. Sorry, Matt, do you have one?
No, I that's about it for me.
I just out of curiosity, I've heard different things on this, but like in Canada, we have healthcare, and in the States, not so much. You guys have, okay, let me back up. We have like extended benefits that we give our employees, so that it's sort of like chiropractor, dental, glasses, stuff like that. But like basic healthcare is all covered by the government.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard people say that like in the States, if you have a healthcare plan and then there's some sort of claim or someone goes on like I don't know, gets sick or has all these costs, it can like put your business out of business because your premiums go up so much. Is that true? And is that something you have to like wrestle with? And to be a premium employer, do you have to make sure you provide benefits?
So in the service industry, I'd say you don't have to offer health insurance benefits.
Okay.
It'd be a great differentiator. And I think with the way the labor market is right now, it's probably a wise idea for people to offer. I will say, like in our businesses, it's super detrimental. Like we have to offer it in the US. If you have over 50 employees, you have to offer it. Or you can pay a penalty, but we're pushing 100 employees like between all of our businesses. So we get like, they all get looped together. And when like we pay 50% of the premium, the employee pays 50% of the premium, and we don't like, we don't push it on anybody, but it's out there. And when we hire people, we let them know about it. But where they take it, it like kills our business. I mean, like it's super cost prohibitive. And the way I see it working, I'm not a medical health insurance expert at all. There's like an open market for people to go get health insurance. Health insurance isn't cheap, but also if you show up at a hospital in the US, they're going to take care of you. And if you can't pay the bill, they're still going to take care of you. And so somebody's paying for it. And it's pretty much everybody that's paying for health insurance is paying for everybody that doesn't have health insurance type of thing. It's kind of the same as auto insurance. Like, yeah, you need to have auto insurance, but if you get in an accident and don't have auto insurance, it's the person that does have the insurance that's fucked, not the person that didn't have the insurance. That was just the
We
person.
have to have auto insurance.
Right? Like legally you have
Legal
to.
if we don't.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same here. It's illegal if you don't. But if you get in an accident and somebody illegally doesn't have car insurance, it's the person that does have it that has to pay, not the person that doesn't have it. So there's this like reverse incentive going in the wrong direction, because the person that can't afford it is like, well, sue me, I don't have any money anyway, right? So it ends up being the person that has the auto insurance. Like you get totally hosed if you get in an accident with somebody that doesn't have car insurance. Granted, their life sucks too, because they're like, it's probably going to get reported and it's going to be really hard for them to get insurance in the future or buy a car in the future or whatever. So it's like they're not getting off it easy by any means. But I feel like health insurance kind of works the same way, which is, and this is very anecdotal, but like I know people that have not had health insurance that have gotten great medical care in the US and didn't have to pay a dime. And the medical facility was like, just like, don't tell them you don't have insurance and then you don't have to pay anything. Right. But like clearly the hospital's making plenty of money and so is the doctor. So I'm pretty sure somebody's paying for it. And so back to like with the employees, we have to offer it. If you have under 50 employees, you don't have to offer it, which I would assume is like most service companies. Not that they can't offer it. It's just so cost prohibitive. It's so expensive to have to offer it. The care is great. Like the medical facilities are phenomenal, but to afford them is super expensive. So there's some like open market things you can get. But like I said, in general, if you show up at the ER and your leg's falling off, they're going to freaking fix your leg. And then if you have insurance, they'll figure it out later. Right. But they're not going to take care of you. So it's not universal health insurance. It's a goofy form of universal health insurance. Like it's not like a tax thing where everybody pays into the government. It's like it's handled through a mysterious black hole of health insurance premiums that nobody really understands. Is my explanation for it, since I don't really understand it.
Got it.
That makes sense. Kind of.
It's just not even a thing on our radar. That's what I was asking. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not even really worried, like, do we offer this? Do we not offer it? So
yeah, it's just part of the thing. Do you as employers, do you have to pay anything, or is it just purely like the government handles it?
I think just the government handles it. Like we pay into a retirement fund, we pay like employment insurance, which is if you're, not insured for a bit, CPP, EI, we pay WCB, which is like workers' compensation, which is, was that OSHA where you guys are?
It's workers' comp. It's different than OSHA, but OSHA will come and fine you if you're not doing safe stuff.
That's work safe. That'll come and fine us probably.
Yeah.
So we pay into that, but I don't think any of that's directly related to our healthcare necessarily. But if we have it's not related. If we have a lot of like work site injuries, then our work safe premiums go up or whatever. So.
Yep. I got you. Well, we're rolling on the 2 hour mark here, fellas. Did we miss anything? Was there anything you're like, Dan, we got to talk about this and we haven't got to it yet?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think that's it. Matt, anything you got?
No, I think we're good. That was awesome.
Yeah, I just got a text and I missed one of our staff, Sarah, and I just want to point out that's her little booth behind Matt. So, well, that chimed in late. That's Sarah's office.
I like your office, Sarah. It's a good looking office.
We also have a 4th or 5th division where we just go water plants on a strata, and we only have one guy that does that, and that's cool. And so we didn't get into that division, but we have one guy that waters plants with a hose. So
Like
But-
he's the best plant water on that side of the Mississippi, I bet.
you see,
I'm gonna be honest. He's a pretty incredible plant waterer.
I call him Bobby Boucher, you know, like water boy.
He's like talking to the plants. He's got like a little special language that he talks to them, and they just start
Yeah,
just growing.
yeah, there we go.
You can't teach that. You can't teach that kind of skill set.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I don't think anything else. I think it was like super fun being on your show. There's like a few things we hit on, like figuring out our acquisition cost of clients, different budget things. I'd love to get on a call with you sometime, whether live or not, and just go through ours and help hammer some of that out. I'll probably get on building one of those in the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know me. I always love nerding out about numbers. Just hit me up and we'll dive in.
yeah, I think I might have told you this before. Sorry, this is not important to viewers, but I just finished an Excel course. So I've made a few Excel sheets that I'm excited about that you might be excited to nerd on a little bit. So
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, I am. That's my jam.
there you go.
Good deal. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and drinking some beer with me. Always fun to see you guys, and it's been too long since we don't get to see each other every week. So I appreciate it, and hope you guys keep kicking ass and hit that 2 mil this year.
Oh yeah, if we're allowed in America ever, we'll come check your place out and come by for a visit.
I'll have some cold beer waiting for you.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks,
All
Dan.
right. See you guys.
All right,
Good
see you
night,
later.
everybody. We'll see you next week. Peace.